Hello everybody, this is Gregory with How I Lost Over 100 Pounds and have kept it off for 30 plus years, where there should be no hesitancy in your weight loss and weight maintenance. Today I'm going to posit the question, if you're married, is it good to put in inducements or enticements or rewards or punishments if you don't reach a certain weight milestone or your spouse doesn't? Now before we begin, if you need help with weight loss, contact me through the Clarity FM link found here in the episode notes. Also check out my 2 books, which you can find on Amazon, my website, which has hundreds of articles and recipes, and my new movie podcast, The Cinema Rag, which you can find on Spotify or Apple if you like movies. And lastly, if you appreciate my content, there is a link for PayPal. So what do I mean here? Let's say you're married. Let's say you were overweight or your spouse is overweight, and you decide or they decide to put in enticements or punishment if you don't reach a certain weight. Is this a good motivator? So for example, let's say your wife is regular weighted or maybe overweight and has lost 30 pounds, but you don't want her to gain the weight back, and she would admit she would want to gain the weight back too. That you have weekly weigh-in or monthly weigh-in. She has a monthly weigh-in, and if she's staying under a certain amount of weight, you buy her a dress, you buy her a purse, you give her some gift, and it's some positive reinforcement for her to keep the weight down. Or conversely, let's say it's for you, you are overweight, and she's like, you know what, if you can hit this weight by a certain date, I will do blah, blah, whatever it is. Do these work? Does this mindset work? Do these things work? Well, let's step back. I think when you get married, part of saying I do is that you do make a promise that you're going to stay in shape the best that you can. And I think both parties appreciate this. I'm not saying this because I'm a man and the woman shouldn't get fat, but I think women don't want their husbands to get fat either. We have an episode here on lies that fat people tell themselves, and this is one of them, like, my spouse doesn't care that I'm fat. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. So I think that's one issue. Is like I don't like it when couples just like, oh, I got married, now I can get fat. And you see this in both cases. I see it every day where either the man's let go or the woman's let go. And let's be honest, it's harder for a woman to keep her weight down because she just has more body fat based on being a woman, and she's got to gain a certain amount of weight anytime she has children. What's the man's excuse? Either way. So that's one thing. Like, that's part of your promise. And of course, we're all going to age. We're all going to get love handles. Our skin isn't going to be as supple. But it's important to do the best you can to maintain the body you have. We are our own, we cultivate, and we are the guardian of our own bodies. And it's important that we keep the best shape we can because we want to live a good, long quality of life. Now, do weekly weigh-ins, monthly weigh-ins, inducements, incentives, punishments, whatever, do they work? It really depends on the person. Some people are very goal-oriented. Some people are like, you give me a mission, I will do it. We talked about this in the people how like running a half marathon or marathon doesn't guarantee you're going to keep your weight down. Because there are people who are like, okay, all right, now I got a goal. In 5 months, I got to run a marathon. I'm going to do it. And they have this goal like on a wall, and they're tracking it, and then they get it done, and then after that they just binge eat for 5 months, right? So there's no like habits. You're not building good habits, and weight loss is all about good habits, and weight maintenance certainly is even more. So there's going to be people who are like that like kind of like goals. There's going to be people who are like, how dare you? Then they'll just spin it, your love is based on my looks, or they'll say, how controlling, da 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 da. So I don't think it's something that you can impose unilaterally on somebody. Certainly after you get married, it's got to be an agreed upon thing. And if it's an agreed upon thing, then I don't see any problem with it if that person's motivated by it. I suppose, would I be motivated by it? I don't know, but I'm one of those guys who just goes and runs and works out every day, and I don't need to join CrossFit. We have an episode on should you join group exercise. I'm just one of those solo lobo exercisers. Like, I'm just self-motivated. So I don't know if my partner were to be like, you need to keep your weight under this, how I would respond to that. I think also it's just being a man there is a double standard. Women are the objects of beauty. Let's be real. That's not to say that men shouldn't be in shape, but there is a double standard. And I think as a man, there's a different criteria that men are applied to fairly or unfairly. So in general, should you implement this in your marriage? Let's say you're losing weight, or she's losing weight, or she's gotten overweight, or you've gotten overweight. I think it's good. I think it's an incentive. People are motivated, and if depending on how much money you have, or depending what the inducement is, if it's like, hey, we get down to this weight, you and I together, or you, or whoever it is, understand, the idea is born out of charity. Like, both of you, if you strip away the BS, would admit that I would be happier if I was regular weighted. And you as my spouse would be happier if I was regular weighted. Or flip it around. I would be happy if you kept your weight down and kept it off. And so would you. No one wants to be fat if they have a regular kind of view of themselves, a healthy view of themselves. Now, there are people who eat themselves to death. You'll watch Brendan Fraser's movie The Whale, for example. But I mean, the normal way is like you want to be healthy, you want to be, and part of that is regular weighted. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's all a question of, like with a lot of things with couples, it's like compromises and does this work? But as a whole, people are motivated by money. People are motivated by goals. And like a lot of people wouldn't do the things they do if they weren't remunerated on some level, right? We're not going to be working just to work. So if you put some sort of inducement for maintaining something, it's kind of a win-win for everybody. You know, if you're not promising like every week you stay in shape, we're going to fly to Cancun. I mean, that would be price exorbitant and price prohibited. But if it's something reasonable, and if it is something that motivates the other person, then it's a win-win-win, because that person gets a gift or something. They get to keep their weight where they want it to be, which ultimately they're happier with, and you're happy as the spouse. So as a whole, kind of go case by case basis, but as a whole, I think it's a good thing that could work. Guys, post in the comments. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.